Filmmaking is the new garage band. Welcome to Framelines, the show about people making movies.
Framelines is brought to you in part by Sabo Studios, gear for the show. Tape Central, providing your media needs. Production Partners Media, affordable media solutions. And by grants from the Greater Columbus Arts Council and the Ohio Arts Council.
Framelines did a quick interview with this filmmaker for the 48-hour film project.
Our team name was Team Chin Up. I'm a photographer and I shoot fashion models, and the thing I say more than anything is keep your chin up, so that's where I got the name. I was the director, writer. Well, I had some help writing. I had tons of help from, well, we had a pretty small crew, but writer, director, camera operator, editor. Today was all about overcoming. We decided to start shooting at around 1 p.m. And lo and behold, right when we were going to shoot our first scene outside, my sound guy came up and said, yeah, you might want to come take a look out to the west because there's a big storm coming. And our story was heavily dependent on being outside in this one scene. So through a miracle, we got 3 takes in. And literally at the end of the 3rd take, there was thunder and lightning, and as soon as I said cut, the next thing I said was everybody inside. And we were up in Delaware at a farmhouse. When we went in this old house, a new location popped up that ended up taking the place of where I was going to shoot, and it's actually better than where I was going to shoot. So I was like, okay, thank you, Mother Nature, thank you. This is my first time doing one of these. So I wanted to make sure, I followed to keep it simple. And the story is always the most important. And I thought we came up with a pretty good story. No fancy camera tricks. Shot our film all in all black and white mode because I knew going in I didn't want to spend any time in post. Our genre was road movie. So we shot in Delaware, we shot in downtown Columbus, we shot in central Columbus over by the Milo School on 3rd Avenue. We shot back up by Alum Creek, and our last shot was last night at about 2 o'clock in the morning in a parking lot behind Alum Creek Dam. We basically had things prioritized, and we knew what things were going to be given up. So at certain deadlines we had set, we knew that we had to be rendering our final A version by X time, and we were pretty close to keeping that deadline. And we still allowed a little bit of time for that afterwards to try to improve it. There was a couple shots I would have liked to get into. One shot, there's a piece of a boom mic. You could see a little piece of it for about 3 frames. It was on the list of if we have time, we'll fix it, but we didn't get to it. Set deadlines and adhere to them. And that's what we did.
Scott Spears shows us how to make movies with this filmmaking tip.
Scott Spears here with another indie film tech tip. I was looking for a little reading light the other day in that Scandinavian store that everybody knows that sells fun little furniture, items, etc. And I stumbled across this cool little light. I said, this would be a great reading light. But I also started looking at it and realizing it might make a great little backlight. It's basically an LED light with a little clamp, and it's got a magnifying glass on it, and it really puts out a powerful little backlight or a little beam of light. We have a shot here of a subject, and we've got a nice backlight on them, and this is using our little backlight. So this is just a cool little light from that store that starts with an I and ends in an A. It costs $15, and it's a great little backlight. I've thrown it into my light kit, and I carry it around a lot for shoots. I hope you enjoyed this tip. See you on Framelines.
Here's a quick look at the 48-hour film project.
I was producer and actor. Oh, it was incredible. It really was. Okay, like I say, we pulled film noir. My buddy and I, Lowell Price, buddy, we got reacquainted. We used to shoot film back in high school. We came in, got involved, and I pulled the genres and stuff here Friday night. Then I called back to Lowell, told him what everything was. He wrote, called me, gave me an initial script. I went through it. We talked about changing stuff up. So we had, a guy that handled the camera, Judy, and she's a costume designer and actress, and Micah Jenkins helped out on a ton of stuff. Actually turned out to be one of the most experienced guys on the set. Lowell, who is a director, he wrote the script mostly. I helped some. I still got a co-writing credit because I'll scam credit anywhere I can. We had a script easily by 11 o'clock Friday night. Came in, started shooting Saturday. We were done shooting by 7. And the shoot went really easily. It was when we came to the editing was what took time. We started editing Saturday night. We finally broke off editing at 4 in the morning. Finally got everything edited. Miles was great with laying in the sound effects and stuff. He has serious skills in that regard. Then we started trying to render it. The world got ugly. It's a little bit out of sync, but we got something turned in on time. They say we have film noir, so I was grooving on the lighting. I'm not sure if we really achieved noir lighting as well as we could have, but we did pretty well. The idea of playing with that and the camera angles, I learned a lot. I don't know, it was an incredible educational weekend. I'd forgotten about having to keep the 180, making sure you're not suddenly flipping sides of the room. It was a very compressed educational process. You don't have any time to screw up. You screw up and you're done. If it's your first time out, keep it a small group of people, keep it organized, and keep your script to where you can do it two locations at most.
Peter John Ross hosts a roundtable discussion, much like a film festival panel, in your living room.
What is the kind of the percentage for you of what you wrote versus the final product? How close is it to what you wrote and the intentions of your writing to final product for you?
It's not really what I begin with when I'm writing and vision. You have to basically edit again on set. Here's my limitations, here's what it is, and you have to change your script again. And then I edit a lot of my shorts, and then I change it again. It's like you can't be married to anything.
They've always called editing the final rewrite. Mm-hmm. They say there's 3 versions. There's the script on paper, the script that you shoot, and then what you do in the edit.
Right. It is always better in my head. It's always better in my head than what it ends up being.
That's not true now.
Really?
Heart turned out really well. The remake of Heart turned out really well. Was it better in your head?
What? I like it in my head.
But is it better than the final product?
Of course not.
You can't say that because they're recording.
What?
And I was the producer.
No, Heart was the only exception. Because you just produced it.
There you go.
So talk about a little bit about how you went from writing novels to screenplays, or did you start screenplays and go novel, and compare the two?
I started off actually as a fiction writer, went to grad school, began to formally kind of train as a screenwriter, and then I took a break from filmmaking right after grad school, wrote 2 novels in a year, and they both got published, which was really exciting, but terrifying in the same way. But what I learned from that experience is somehow being a novelist made me a better screenwriter, and being a screenwriter made me a better novelist. It's because I have a natural ear for dialogue, and I can really hear that click in my head. So it was about kind of combining those 2 worlds and sort of bringing them together to see how does one facilitate the other and make them stronger. So I can't separate the 2 as far as they're like these sort of separate existence, but rather it's just one of those things where, one has an internal world, which is the novel. You have the internal world of the mind of the character, and the screenplay is very visual based, and dialogue, and you have that nice little even, cut between the 2, unless you're Kevin Smith.
Yeah, that's true. What about this is kind of everybody, what about that theory that, a screenplay, I've heard kind of the formal rule is you can, in a novel, you can write things like, you write about Steven's in the room, he's a college graduate but doesn't have a job. Whereas in a screenplay, if you write that, that's not, there's the whole thing about the rule of, in a screenplay, you're supposed to write in the description only what you can see so that they can then shoot it. You can't write that. You'd have to write instead of Stephen,
Right.
Instead of saying Stephen is a college graduate, you say pan across a diploma,
Well, see-
and then pan across the kind of,
but those are
the
using-
unemployment check.
Right, right. But those, I don't know what the two of you do, but using those terms, unless I'm directing the film, I caution not to use directing terms as often as I can. I mean, what do the two of you do?
I keep mine very visual, but also as close as I can to a novel. So my screenplays, when you read them, don't have hardly any technical information in them.
Right.
It's because I want the read to be good and fun and pleasant. Most people, when they get a screenplay, if they get all this technical stuff,
Right.
they just they put the block up and
Exactly.
they don't care to read what the heart of the story is.
Yeah, I mean, there is that whole thing. There is the rule of, you don't want to give direction.
Exactly.
Because like the director's going to read a script and go, they're trying to do my job
Exactly.
for me.
Yeah. And but in no, I was
Go ahead, because there's also
Josh is
the
between
other
us.
flip side.
But the other flip side is when you have people who are either starting out or just used to writing in a certain way, they take the internal world of a character, his thoughts, his feelings, all this exposition, and they just bleed it onto the page, and it's so frustrating because that's not staying true,
Yes, that's not screenwriting.
No.
That's not.
There's that. There's also the whole concept of subtext being the words may not have anything to do with the meaning of the scene.
Mm-hmm.
That you could have a couple that's at the end of the rope, they're talking about the soup, but they're really saying, I know you cheated on me.
I know those are
So
yeah.
it's like, subtlety seems to be something that's missing a lot from screenplays, from first timers.
and killing the darlings, the things that they wrote really well but don't really fit in the screenplay. Like maybe there was a really incredible scene that's been developed and this incredible dialogue, incredible description, but it doesn't fit the movie and they don't want to let it go. Because it's something they created, and it's like chop. It's if it doesn't move the story forward, if it isn't exciting to that particular story, it doesn't belong in that script. Maybe that belongs in a different script. I mean,
That brings up a good thing about kind of the collaborative art.
Right.
How many things have you written that have been produced by other people other than yourself? That's most of your work, right?
A few things have been produced by other people, and tell me your question again, because right now I'm thinking about the last thing I wrote for somebody.
Well, you don't have to definitely don't have to name names of horror stories kind of thing, but it's more of, tell me about what was it like for you as a screenwriter seeing how somebody else produced your work?
I have two stories. One is, this is the quick story. One is that actually Neil and I wrote something together, Neil, my husband, who you met. We wrote something called Devil's Weed, and it's just this comedy about a bunch of kids hiding in some caves and smoking pot, and they happen to stumble across this mummified corpse of Mary Scott Worth, legendary black sorceress. So they think, cool, we're going to take her home and put her up for a cool Halloween decoration. Little do they know that this thing is cursed, and it comes to life and it slays the whole town, and these glassy-eyed teens have to band together and save their little trailer trash homes. So
so it's a family film.
it's a family film. It's sort of like Dazed and Confused meets The Twilight Zone
I love
kind of
it.
thing. But we just wrote that for kicks, and we thought, we'd been writing these heady things, and then Neil said, you know what? Nobody's going to buy our heady, artful things. Let's just make a piece of trash that Hollywood will want and buy. I said, okay. So we did. We got some Mountain Dew, some Cheetos, and we sat there, and we worked till 3 in the morning, and we got crazy, and just wrote out this crazy stuff. And but somebody in Hollywood became interested in it, and after they read it, they said, we want to option this. We want you guys you can produce it with us if you want. That means they don't have option money when they give you that offer. So we met them. We met with them, and as we were talking with them, she said, I just love the title Devil's Weed. There's just a few things in the script I want to change.
boy.
By the time we were done with our meeting, about 97% of the script had to be changed. It turns out the only thing she liked was the title, Devil's Weed. She said, I can market that, I can sell that. She said, but I want everything, we'll just change everything around in it. It was a completely different rewrite for the script. That didn't happen. We ended up not doing that deal because it's just not a good deal. But the other thing is, when I wrote for another company, they had written their own screenplay. And they had read something that I had written on my own. They said, we really like this, but it's too expensive for us to shoot. So can you take that screenplay that you wrote and sort of put it into this setting that takes place in one lodge? And so I was game. I said, I'll try that, and we'll see what happens. So I gave them 5 scenarios. They took one, they ran with it, and they produced it. However, this is the hard part about being a writer and being in Ohio, and then trying to work with LA. They don't always have money to fly you to the set. They don't like writers on the set. And so I told them up front, all of these scenes take place at night, and it's crucial they take place at night. Why? Because our victims are running away from somebody at night. There are cliffs all around. That ups, the stakes.
The tension is there.
So there's a reason for them to try to run away at night. To try to not run away at night. They're afraid of falling off of a cliff. So they're sort of captive in a spot. They can stay and be killed by the killer who's after them, or they can run and maybe kill themselves in the process. I said, but it has to take place at night. So they can, because if it was daytime, you would see the cliff.
Right.
Well, so they get on set and they think, it's so hard to shoot at night, let's just turn these scenes into a day shoot. So here are these characters running around, and I ask you, if somebody's after you, with a high-powered tool, and you don't have anything to protect yourself, and it's daylight, would you just not run? I sure as hell would. I would just run. But no, they act stupid because they didn't call me and say, well, we're making a change in the script. Because all they had to do is pick up the phone or send me an email and call and say, we're turning it into a day shoot. What can we do? Because I would have gladly tried to help remedy the situation for
try
them.
to find a motive.
Yes, yes.
You would want to find a motive for them.
This will be on the. They're wonderful people.
You're done in this town. You're done in this town.
I do really like the people from Devil's Weed and the people from this last shoot that I will not name the title. They're all wonderful people. I actually still work with them.
Well, yeah, it's just, but again, it comes down to what are the practicalities of shooting. For them, they probably save 25% of their budget not having to light all those night exteriors.
Sure, I get that.
They sacrificed a
But
big
they
part of the
sacrificed
story.
logic.
Logic, and then of course didn't go to her where she could have offered them an alternative, as opposed to some silly person following, going, when it doesn't work.
Their comeback to me was, it doesn't really matter because it's just a horror movie. Who cares? I'm like, I care. My name's on it.
Most viewers probably care.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. I think that they do. Even people that want to watch schlocky horror, you can still make good schlocky horror. There is a distinct difference between the good and the bad in any genre, be it exploitation, schlock, or what have you. And so I'm all for communication and bringing writers on board and working with them. If you ever have a problem, that's who to go to and saying, this isn't working. What can we do real quick?
But don't you think that the reason they generally don't is because more times than not, the writer is so married to their words?
Well, yes and no. I think if you're writing for another company, it's really easy to become the rewrite queen. And I think it just depends on from writer to writer, don't you guys?
I would agree with you about that, but what you're saying is a good point. As a director, when I've worked with other writers, sometimes it's very difficult because the writer has created a certain vision and that ability to accept that the script is a foundation. I don't mean in that case of what happened to you day and night. Literally, that doesn't make sense to me. But it, I don't know the snare. But seriously, I do think that it's hard for a director, especially if the writer is very married to the concept they've created in their head. Maybe the actor won't look the way they wanted them to look. Maybe the art direction doesn't match their art direction in their head. And you can't capture all of that a lot of the time as someone who's a director and a writer. But I do think it is from writer to writer at times. It's just unfortunately it's not across the board. So then it gets a bad stereotype is don't get the writer on the set.
Right.
I mean.
Because I know plenty of writers that are very flexible. They completely understand collaboration. And then I've met the other type of writer where they're so used to autonomy because writing is an autonomous.
It's something you do that's private. I mean, you're alone in the room for 12 hours.
You're creating worlds in your imagination and typing words to create them. Changing that to where we've got 25 to 30 people trying to make this a reality and certain practicalities can supersede. the intention of the writer. It's again, it's like, you know, I'm a big believer in collaboration and keeping the writer involved in a shoot as much as possible. But sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't.
Yeah,
But I think in
that.
most cases, I mean, it's good to have a writer that can collaborate with the production to find an answer to a problem.
Definitely, because if you let the costume person or the makeup person or anybody else say, well, why don't we just do this? And I can't tell you how many times I've had a development person come in and say, well, we like the script, we want to add a little romance here in this Russian thriller thing. And we're game, we'll try it, we want to appease, you know. But then we find out after 2 years of rewrites that the development person keeps wanting to change something here or there, and we find out, well, what is this development person's background? We'll come to find out later that, well, they just worked at a phone company before they were hired at this film production company, and they have no training whatsoever in the world of any kind of writing.
They're probably just following trends.
Well, sure, but here's the thing too. A lot of development people, if they don't pipe up and say, well, I think we should do this or this or this, then they're looked at as not necessary, and they feel like, I've got to say something. I've got to say something, because if I don't say anything, if I don't have any input here, they're going to look at me as being unnecessary, and then there goes my job.
So they're just justifying.
So it's just, you have, but this is true. I mean, that's part of the whole collaboration process. Everybody jumps on the wagon and says what they will. But as a writer, I mean, I've learned to let go, and it's a hard thing to learn to do, to let go of your words. But eventually, when you start making your own cuts on your screenplays, you find that you actually start enjoying it. In fact, one of the things I enjoy now more than any part of writing is rewriting, because I know I'll go back to it and say, "Oh, that's really crappy. Let me change this. Yeah, that feels better." And it just like a bottle of wine, you know. Sometimes it just has to sit there and
not that screenwriters are alcoholics by any means.
Right. We were just talking about that earlier about the myth that writers are all smokers
and drinkers,
caffeine fiends.
Yeah.
We just realized that
we're all sitting around like Hemingway, brooding, you know, over the typewriter and thinking of the bulls in Spain.
Only Josh.
Oh, it is Josh, actually.
No, not even me.
Oh.
Let's take a quick peek at the 48-hour film project.
The title of our film was Night Prey. It's a horror. I am the team leader, the DP, the editor, director, catering. Well, we pulled horror this year, which was quite a bit different than the genre we got last year, which was romance. So we were really looking forward to being able to do a complete 180 in terms of the style of movie that we were going to produce. So we had our writing team sit down, had a script by 4 in the morning, started bright and early, got shooting wrapped up by 10 p.m., so we had a 14-hour shoot day, which was grueling. But everybody worked very diligently. We stayed focused the entire time. Edited this morning, got a time lock cut by 10 a.m., and from there on we just polished. So we're happy with what we turned in, but as always, there's always more we could do with it. There were no big pitfalls. Everything took a lot longer than we expected. Anything that did come up that seemed to be a problem was simply something that we just adjusted for with our script. So we were able to work around a couple minor things, but there were no major pitfalls. Everybody got along, there were no fights, so we had a lot of fun with it. We shot this year on a 7D, which is a stills camera. The sound synced just fine. There were no shuttery issues or anything like that. We had really good luck with all our technicals. Edited in Final Cut Pro, all of our lighting was KinoFlow fluorescence, so we had nice equipment, we had a really good set. Everybody behind the scenes on our team is a professional, and they get paid to do what they do, so we were lucky that everything went really smooth in that regard. Very pleased with the script we ended up with. We never script out anything in a 48-hour contest. We never script it out to be read, line by line. We come up with an outline and a framework of what we want to do. Things change by the minute. We shoot things different ways to give us options. Plot had no holes, so we were able to tinker a little bit with some aesthetics and some technical things to amp up the production a little bit. We had a team that worked on the story. Made a rough outline on Friday night, and then we had a scriptwriter, a screenwriter, Brandon Hetzler, who worked with our director, Scott Summit, throughout Friday night to nail down a good script. Advice I would give somebody doing their first 48-hour project is keep it simple. Make sure that your movie has a beginning, middle, end. As far as technicals go, shoot it straightforward, but always have in the back of your mind a way to tell the story with the camera. Shoot your masters, get your over the shoulders, you know, do what is conventional to be safe, but always have your mind working in the back of your head to get those extra little shots that might amp up the production for you.
The script supervisor is also known as the continuity person, and during the golden age of Hollywood, they used the term script girl since it was considered a woman's job back then. The script supervisor makes all the notes while the recording is in progress and between takes. A script supervisor can keep track of all the cameras and write down what is seen by each camera. A script supervisor watches the monitor, usually with the director, and takes notes on everything in the shots as they appear and sound. Notes are written as to which takes the director likes and possible continuity errors, such as mismatched hand gestures, misplacement of props in a scene, or simple things like how much liquid is left in a glass, or any changes to lines in a scene. Straight or squiggly lines on the dialogue of the script indicate whether or not the actors are visible or not seen in the shot. All information must match from the slate, so everything from the shoot translates correctly for post-production and editing. And that is what a script supervisor does.
For more information on the filmmakers, or if you would like a DVD of tonight's program, please visit www.framelines.tv. Love saying this, that's a wrap. We'll see you next time on Framelines.